A 328 gram sample of water absorbs 5.78 kilojoule of heat. Immediately you look at the question, you should be scouting for the units. Well, immediately I say grams behind the 328, I know that is talking about the mass. And kilojoule is simply joules times 1000, since kilo means 1000. So this would be my Q. If the water sample has an initial temperature, Ti, of 35.3 degrees Celsius, what will be its final temperature? So we want to find the final temperature. Note that the specific heat capacity is given as 4.18 joules per grams per degree Celsius for water. So we know C. How do we find the final temperature? Well, we know one formula that has been given to us. Q is equal to mc delta T. And we know the meaning of delta T. Delta T is final temperature minus initial temperature, which means that if we want to find the final temperature, we should first try to find delta T. How do we find delta T? Well, we know the mass, we know the quantity of heat, and we know the specific heat capacity. So Q is known, M is known, C is known. We can easily find delta T, being the only unknown. Let us isolate delta T from that equation. Divide both sides of the equation by mc. Q divided by mc will be equal to delta T. Plug in the values that we already know. Q is given as 5.78 times 10 to the power 3 joules. Remember, kilo simply means 10 to the power 3. Divided by M, which is 328 grams, times C, which is given as 4.18 joules per gram per degree Celsius. That should be equal to delta T. Joules will cancel out joules. Grams will cancel out grams. So the only unit we are going to be left with is degree Celsius. If you plug all of these numbers into your calculator and you divide appropriately, you should get delta T equals to 4.215777,804 degrees Celsius. But remember, we are trying to find the final temperature, not delta T. One thing we do know though is that delta T is equal to the final temperature minus the initial temperature. We are trying to find TF. If you isolate the final temperature, you will get delta T plus the initial temperature is equal to the final temperature. We know the initial temperature. It was given to us in the question. We know the change in temperature delta T. So plug in the two values. Delta T is 4.2157 215,777,804 plus the initial temperature as given to us was 35.3 degrees Celsius, which, if you remember, is right here. This should be equal to the final temperature. And if you plug the numbers into your calculator, the final temperature will come out as 39.5157778 degrees Celsius. The rules for addition: this is one decimal place, this is multiple decimal places, so the final answer will have only one decimal place, which means our final temperature will be 39.5 degrees Celsius.